I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Ballara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Ballara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today, I'm here with Travis Hill. Travis is an active duty Marine stationed in California. His investing journey started 23 years ago while living in Las Vegas. So I'm actually going to stop there, Travis, because your bio is very cool. I'm really excited to hear your story. But first, let me just say thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate your time.
You are most welcome, but it's definitely my honor and privilege. Thank you for having me very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for your service. Always a big honor to speak to the military. Why don't we just let you tell us your story? Give us your background as much as you want. Start back as far as you want, and we'll go where it takes us.
All right. So my investing journey started, like I said, about 20 some years ago, early 20s. And my fiance, now wife, was a loan officer in Las Vegas. And she says, hey, you should try this real estate thing. It's pretty cool. And so much in early 2000s, right, all of the communities in Las Vegas are all tract homes. And so I would come into a community, buy the second biggest house in phase one, house hack it before it was house hacking. And then phase six, every phase release, they add 10 grand or whatever the amount was. And so by phase six, phase seven, I'd refinance, I'd rent it out, and I'd repeat that process again. Joined the Marine Corps in 2003, continued to purchase some property, and then the Great Recession happens, and I'm deploying in Iraq. I'm deploying to Afghanistan. We're living in North Carolina at the time. And by 2011, we are wiped out. Our reserves are gone. We are Dave Ramsey beans and rice, and we short sold all of our properties. And it was a really, really humbling experience to be early 30s, 3 kids, one on the way, and stuck back to like one government paycheck. And I came in the Marine Corps enlisted. And so, going from an engineering firm making 6 digits to now making like 19, 20,000 a year was tough. It was really tough. And then not only as a husband, as a father, but just like, man, I gotta start over, and what do we do? And like, how did this work? And then, so took a hiatus, right? Kind of fast forward 2018, met some individuals, got into a veteran and active duty mastermind group with David Prey and From Military to Millionaire, right. Met Stu Grazier and David Gutierrez with Storehouse 310, and through them started investing again, which then turned into some commercial multifamily, which then turned into syndications, which then turned into private lending, which then turned into land equity, being an equity partner in, which then turned into investing in some short-term rentals. And now it's passively and actively to 126 units and still active duty. So just super, super grateful that I'm in this opportunity. And as a family, we're talking about real estate, we're seeing real estate, we're just engaged, and it's a beautiful, very, very fortunate thing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I a lot of people, I think, a lot of people that, at least that I've been lucky enough to interview, have started their investing journey the last, say 10 years even, right? So after the Great Recession, a smaller number of them lived through it. And I think that it creates a really great perspective on, sort of the highs and lows of the market, having, sort of gone through that really difficult time. And my understanding, I got sort of lucky in the sense that I was semi-investing before the recession, and then went to vet school and got away from it for a little, sort of at the right time, like just luck, pure luck. This wasn't like a smart, I knew what was going to happen sort of thing, just the timing of it. So I got lucky in that sense, but I saw what happened to a lot of people. And my understanding is Vegas was one of the hardest hit places.
Yes,
at that time, right?
50% of our homes went. I mean, it lost 50% of value for one of our homes. And there was a direct correlation between rent and home price. And as home price dropped, the rent dropped. And then, it wasn't so much that rent was dropping, it's the fact that people just couldn't afford. And then you're just like, hey, $1,500 to 12 to 10 to 9 to please just stay and help us out.
Right. Yeah. Please just mow the lawn.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Man, that's brutal. I'm sorry that you went through that. I guess, but one of the things that I find is, I don't know, maybe a common theme amongst real estate investors, people that have that bug, is sure, this happened to you. And I'm sure it was an incredibly hard time. And I'm a big mindset fan. So we can talk a little bit about, sort of all the mindset things that you went through there. But the one point first I wanted to make is you didn't stop, right? You took a pause, but you're back investing in real estate again. So and again, I feel like that's almost nobody, just even when you get hit with a hardship in real estate, almost nobody is like, forget it. That's it. This is, people that aren't in real estate maybe think that they see, oh, well, he got hit in the recession. Why would he do that again? And it's like, no, you learn why it happened and you figure out, kind of what to go from there. Do you mind kind of walking us through? I mean, I'm sure some of that, mindset was just like, oh God, this, as you mentioned, you've got a family to support and stuff. So maybe walk us through some of that, how that, kind of looked for you and your family. You don't have to get, don't get any more personal than you need to. I'm interested in sort of the mindset shift as you went through all of that and then got back into it.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, definitely had I known, right? Like the knowledge wasn't there, right? You didn't have the bigger pockets. You didn't have all the YouTube channels, the amount of information that we have now for real estate investors of any niche, right? Or like, just pick your flavor of how you want to invest in real estate. And there is so much information out there, almost to the point of saturation. So none of that existed, right? Or at least it maybe did, but I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
So had I known what I know now, the next week I would have started investing again instead of waiting that duration, right, until 2018. But the mindset was when we made the decision to start investing again, like my dad was like, why? You lost everything. And I'm like, yeah, but I know how to, like, I can double and triple what I made, right? Like, why would I not? It's very easy. Like, I grew up with horses. I went to college on a rodeo scholarship. So when you fall off the horse, you get back on, right? It was very easy for me to be like, oh, this didn't turn out so well. This was a horrible, horrible experience. Was I the only one? And did I lose as much as somebody else? No, definitely not. I think you talk to, like, you read Rod Cleef's book, like, he lost like hundreds of units, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's doing pretty good now. So it's just it's the willingness to know that it can be done. And it's the satisfaction of knowing that it is something achievable. It's not so far away that you can't make it happen. And there's power to that, right? There's energy to that. And when you know that, like, hey, I am not alone. And I know that I'm not like striking out on my own with no clue. There's other people that have done it. There's other people that have made it be successful. And like anything that's great, there's always a roadmap if you're willing to look for it and willing to see it and see those signs and tokens, if you will, that are placed in front of us.
Yeah. And I think it is Rod Cleef that says that those setbacks or whatever, he calls them seminars or something like it. Someone refers to them that way, just in the sense that the point being, okay, let's use those as a learning event and then use that information to go forward, still, investing in real estate. And
right.
You're not, there's another quote that I don't remember who said, it's like, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. And so, yeah, you kind of realize that, okay, things went wrong. Why did things go wrong? Like now everybody knows why things went wrong. Like it's not a mystery anymore as to what happened. And in hindsight, probably we all should have seen it coming, right? Like it was just things were happening that shouldn't be happening. And then, so then there's that correction. And you're right, looking back at it, had you started reinvesting like a day later, a year later, even you wouldn't have missed out on, a bunch of that run up. And the same thing, I mean, same way, like I wish I started sooner too, in terms of like really getting serious about it. So people that started, got into investing in 2009, 2010 have, crushed it over this last decade. So it's a lesson in, sort of to just get started, right? To just get started and be smart about it.
And I think it's important too, like when, other people have asked me like, hey, like, what did you learn? Right. Well, I realized I was so focused on the ants climbing on the barks of my trees that I didn't see the forest fire. Right. I didn't care about C-SPAN. I didn't care about the bonds. I didn't care about yields or any of those things that are tied or inversely tied to real estate and inflation or recession, any of that stuff. Well, great. Now I do. Now I understand and I look and I read and I listen to those parts of the bigger scope of the market because those are all signs and indicators. And of course, again, going back to data, there's so much data. You go on LinkedIn and people are putting in graphs of all this stuff of why this isn't going to be like in 2008, why this isn't going to be like the recession. And, and the data is just insane how much we're pulling because of what we experienced during the Great Recession.
Yeah. Yeah. And you sort of spoke to this earlier that when back in whatever, early 2000s, before the recession, even maybe a little bit after the recession, the information wasn't as readily available as it is now, right? It wasn't all over social media. It wasn't all over, there weren't YouTube videos everywhere about everything. It's kind of, at this point in life, it's a little bit ridiculous to almost to say, I didn't know, right? I didn't know about that. Like if you want to know, you can know. It's there, right? And I'm not, I understand there are people that maybe don't have access to a computer or the internet or things like that. But the point is that it's out there, right? Before it was like you had to track someone down who knew what they were, you almost had to talk directly to someone. Now it's like you can pick up your phone and find out about just whatever you want. Yeah. Since I think you alluded to it a little bit, let's talk about it. Since you lived through the recession, you lost in 2008, and now we're at a point in the market cycle where a lot of people are worried, or at least the media makes you think that a lot of people are worried. What are your thoughts on that? What do you kind of think is happening? How do you see this going? I know nobody has a crystal ball, and it's just, kind of educated opinion, I guess we'll put it.
My swag, my serious, wild, but guess is that we know that underwriting is not like it was in 2008. So we know that underwriting is still stringent, right? It's still where it should be. We know that supply is far less than demand, which I don't think it was in 2008. I think that we were pretty even with that. We also know that inflation is causing rents to go up. We also know that the interest rate is cooling not cooling, or at least less red hot or less white hot. Maybe we're like in the blue flame of hotness. Yeah. We know that market's cooled a little bit. We also know that from January to this year, I was listening to CNBC today about, basically what the average house is like $450,000 now. And if you take the interest rate payment from January till now, it's like $464 more, so where do you live based on that? That's a lot of money for some people. But I don't see the market doing what it did in the recession because the underwriting is still is what it should be. And we're still I think like 5 million homes short to get where we need to be. And so that
somewhere between 5 and 8 million people have, the numbers that people have put out there. But yeah, there's a tremendous shortage of housing.
So, and I think that's like 10 years before, if we stay on the path we're at, it's going to take like 10 years to get to where we need to be. So it's multifamily still good. Single families are still good. And if inflation continues, making our dollar cheaper, then it's going to be with supply chain issues. I mean, baby formula, right? Like, holy cow. Right. I went to In-N-Out and it was like $8.50 for number one. Like, holy cow. When did it go up? I think it was like 6 something back in my day. Right.
Right. For those of you not in California, In-N-Out is like a big deal here.
For those not in California or have never ate an In-N-Out, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a major thing to people in California. It is a serious obsession with Californians. But yeah, sorry, go on. I love that.
For all you Texas folk, it's like not having a Whataburger or
exactly.
like,
yep. Yeah.
Which is also good. Whataburger's pretty good. But yeah, I think we're in a good, I don't think we're going to have the recession again because of those factors.
Yeah. Again, like, what do I know? I'm not an economist. Nobody really can predict, but I feel like we're actually, as investors, coming into a bit of an opportunity, because I think that, first of all, like cap rates were so compressed, prices were like out of control in a sense, and I think there's going to be, I don't even know that it's necessarily going to pull back, but I don't know that it's going to keep, sort of skyrocketing up from there. And but what it's doing is it's, I think, making some people nervous that maybe aren't as comfortable, and so it's just meaning the competition is lower, right? The competition to buy the investment properties, they're still fundamentally the same as they were 3 months ago. You have to be careful about your interest rates and make sure you underwrite correctly and conservatively. But I think that's, maybe some people weren't doing that before. So if you're doing that before, you just keep doing that now, it's still just a math problem. It hasn't really changed it. It's like the number that you plug into the interest rate spot is higher, but it's still just a math problem. Are you able to achieve the returns that you want to achieve?
Right. And I think that with that, right, like we just bought a single family property in Cleveland, and we're in the middle of refinancing it. Use private money, no cash in the deal. Like, everything's great. I think after everything's said and done, we're going to have like $6,700 in it. And it allows, like, it's a solid base hit. I think it's going to cash flow like $264. Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Who cares? Right?
Nothing wrong with that.
It's a solid base hit. Nothing wrong with that. I could take the extra 264 and that pays my gas for the month. Well, 6 months ago, paid for my gas.
Not in California.
California.
Yeah.
But that's something that like, okay, cool. And now I got a tenant. It's renting for $1,250. It appraises for like $100. Like, everything is great, right? So it's just very, very easy, stupid, and those deals are still out there, yep. Right? So I think that when we move into the commercial multifamily piece, I think that a lot of LPs, limited partners, have been they've been eating fat on the hog, mm-hmm. because of the way cap rates have been and the amount of the return of IRRs, your equity splits, like your return, your annual returns, like all of those things. Great, fantastic. I love it as an LP, right? But I think there's going to come a time if things either go up a little bit or continue to stabilize. I think because of those compressed cap rates, that you're going to have some really good conversations with LPs and GPs and see how tight that communication really is, because you're going to have to either on an existing loan, right, or existing deal, you're going to have some come to Jesus moments a little bit. And then on new loans or on new opportunities, you're going to have to kind of have, hey, these are single digit returns, but cost segregation is still 100% till this year, goes to 80% next year. If 8.3-ish is the inflation percentage right now, would you rather get a 9%, 9.5% return instead of the 12, 13, 14, 15 that you might have gotten in the last 3 or 4 years? But now you're only losing maybe 1% to inflation instead of keeping your money somewhere else and losing all of your money to inflation, right? And so it's just a matter of how educated you want to help your LPs be. And then just like say, hey, you're maybe not getting the whole cash flow, but you're saving in in the tax bracket with cost segregation, or, the value add, or because of inflation, rents are going up. So we know that it's going to continue to help $25 here, $50 here on a new rehab unit. So I think that those are important things that GPs need to be telling their LPs as they structure these deals, because the better you are at mitigating the most of the risk, the more successful I think you're going to be as a GP. But if you just say like, oh, we're going to raise rents $125 after rehab the unit because there's such a great value add, I don't think that's mitigating risk in this type of environment very well.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple of really great points there. One being, as an investor, whether you're an active or a passive, you need to know what your risk tolerance is and what your kind of investment thesis is. Like, do I strictly want cash flow? Because you're going to invest in a different deal for cash flow than you would for if you're just like, look, I want to buy in a big market that's going to continue to have appreciation and things like that. I may sacrifice on the cash flow in the front end, but on the back end, we still have the best chance to really, add value and increase the sale price and get a big bump at the end of sale. You also touched on kind of the other components. It's not just the cash flow. It's not just the IRR. It's the depreciation. It's the tax benefits. It's all of, there's a whole lot that goes into it. And I think and I'm including myself in this until very recently, but people that don't know all of the ins and outs of it in terms of like investing in these types of opportunities, especially as an LP, there's so much more to it than just like what that cash flow number is, that you really have to kind of really educate yourself on all of it. And you're right, sponsors, general partners, we're going to have to be better at educating people as far as expectations. One of the things that I like to watch is the people that have been doing it for a long time and doing it really well, and seeing what they're putting out in their offering memorandums at this point, in their investment summaries, and the preferred returns, the projected IRRs, the equity multiples are lower, right? Just being conservative, being on a realistic side, because if they outperform, awesome, right? Like if you outperform your projections, awesome. But if you underperform them because you're still trying to, you're being too aggressive, I think that's much worse. And those people that have been doing it, they can still put out those offerings with lower projected returns and have no problem filling their capital, their equity raise. It's something that I think is a really kind of, I don't know, helpful thing for me, is to just watch the people that have been doing it for a long, long time and doing it very, very successfully, and watching them, even as I'm saying that as an LP, just watching them being invested in their deals and saying, well, this is a smaller projections than the last one I invested in. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, that's just the landscape right now.
Yeah. I think one thing that I'm seeing more of too, is I'm seeing tiers. Tiered returns, which I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And tiered returns, like I saw one the other day, it was $100,000. You got a 9% return, but no equity. And then another one was you get a 7% return to $50,000, and then you get an equity split.
Yeah. There's you can do all kinds of different investor classes or something like that, where it's like truly a debt equity section basically. And then your other, where you have equity, you get to participate in the sale proceeds. There's also people that are doing different classes for the amounts invested, right? So if you have someone's bringing in a lot more capital to that, they might get a higher preferred return. So there's a lot of different ways to structure it to kind of make it more appealing, make it more, universal. So you can have, different levels of investors in there, but just being conscious of what's going on and being really careful in the underwriting, as far as, essentially truly being conservative and not trying to push the envelope.
Yep.
don't think we can rely on, sort of cap rates continuing to magically compress for another 10 years. That it's been a nice run. Let's talk about your portfolio a little bit. You kind of mentioned a lot of different things that you're involved with, and I had David Perret on the podcast a while back. It was great. I love what he's doing. I love the content that he puts out. So what is I don't know if you would say that you're, sort of trying to diversify, or you just being opportunistic? What's your idea in terms of what is your investment thesis, I guess?
I am 100% a buy and hold investor. My goal, I have 18 years in the Marine Corps. I have roughly 4 to 6 years left, I think. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. And when I retire, I don't want a W-2 job. My goal is to have enough cash flow from real estate and to include my pension and disabilities that, I can create. I have optionality in my life, which as serving in the Marine Corps, and probably most service members will agree, we don't get too much of that while we're serving.
Makes sense, I suppose.
That's my goal, is to have optionality when I retire from the Marine Corps. And with that optionality, have a selfish and a selfless goal. And my selfish goal is to go the freedom of going where I want and doing what I want for the duration and how I want to do it. And then my selfless goal is contributing to communities local and abroad. And, through service, either, like Habitat for Humanity, going abroad, going down to Mexico, building homes. Like, I like construction. I'm an engineer in the Marine Corps. I like construction. I like seeing things completed at the end of the day, or progress moved forward at the end of the day. So I want that optionality to be selfish and selfless with the opportunity that real estate has created for me. And I think that is a well-served life that you're giving back to your community, and, bringing my kids along and helping them see that given of your time, talents, and abilities, you can make the world a better place around you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. In your strategy for doing that, for achieving that, I know strictly buy and hold, but you mentioned, you're invested in land, you're doing some private money lending, kind of all. So are you looking at that from I guess my question comes from the standpoint of, some people say, oh, you have to really focus, like hyper niche down, right? You do this one thing, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, I sort of believe in just go with the opportunities that become available. That's sort of, yes, be hyper focused, maybe where you're going to be the operator. But as far as your own portfolio, it does make sense, I think, to, kind of be in different areas and be diversified. How have you come upon all of that? Like, how are you finding your deals when, when you're doing all these different things? How does that kind of fall into your lap?
100% networking. 100%. I just continue to talk to everybody that I know at work or through social media, or, just whatever, meeting people locally here in town. Like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I invest in real estate. Oh yeah. Where? Oh, I invest in Cleveland and Milwaukee and Texas and Florida and Arizona. And I think that, having gone through the experience of having only single family homes in Las Vegas and losing all of them, I don't like being so niched down that I have nowhere to go. And so I like the diversity, just like you would look in the stock markets, right? Like, you're going to own some different sectors of stocks, different types of, you're going to diversify your stocks. Well, why can't I diversify my real estate? I don't have a problem being an equity partner in land in Arizona, or buying some single families in Cleveland and then some multifamily in Milwaukee, or a short term in Florida. Like, those are all means to accomplish my goal of being financially free without having a need for W-2 when I retire. So if opportunity if an opportunity presents itself because I am trying to put that into the universe, the universe answers back with an opportunity. Well, that's how people talk about luck, right? Was it opportunity plus preparedness equals luck?
Yeah.
Well, if the universe gives you the opportunity and you're not prepared, well, then you never get to say you were lucky. And then that just kind of defeats the purpose of working your butt off and networking and communicating and being on podcast with you. And, that's opportunity. Make it happen.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. And the last thing you said, kind of make it happen. You can sort of create your own luck, right? It's not, you don't just sit there passively sort of waiting for life to happen to you. Go out there and build the life that you want for yourself and your family. Travis, I think that's a really good transition point, I guess, to the part where I get to ask you the questions that I like to ask every guest. The first one I feel like maybe you've touched on a little bit, but related to the name of the show being Know Your Why. So what is your why? What really drives you?
My why is all about keeping an abundant mindset, of giving back, of being someone that's worth knowing. I think sometimes this world is all about being well known. And I want to be an individual that is and has an abundant mindset. And, the Jim Rohn quote, right? If you spend your whole life helping people achieve their success or helping get what they want, then you're always going to get what you want. Yeah. My grandfather, he was 95 when he died. And one thing that he told me, he's like, Travis, always provide value first for people. Find the value first. And I always thought was interesting, and I didn't realize it until after he died, but he never said anything about money. Never once.
Yeah.
And then I've realized in having an abundant mindset and wanting to, my mantra is your success is my happiness, is that the money always follows the value. If you look for money first and then try to find the value, you will struggle. But if you find the value for others, the money is going to follow. That's just I think it's a universal rule.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. And I don't know, I'm somewhere in 120 or 130 recordings, and never once has anyone, answered that question with, oh, I just really want a pile of money. That's not the goal. That's not, yes, money is a extremely useful tool, important to creating, this life that people want in terms of time, freedom, and but ultimately also having impact and being able to like you said, sort of be someone that's worth knowing and having just positivity and ability to kind of be impactful for the people around you. And I think it's just, obviously this is a question I love asking because it's the name of the podcast, but I really do find that it's an important point. Second question for you, Travis. Tell us something about yourself that is maybe not common knowledge, maybe not everybody knows about you, but you're comfortable sharing just to let the world know you a little better.
Well, most recently, I think two things. I'll give you something from the past. I was a child actor. I did a bunch of commercials back when I was a kid.
Oh, cool.
For Pistol Pizza back in Arizona. More recent, I'm a stage 3 colon cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in 2019. And that has been an epic run of interesting stuff. And we talk, that's a whole other podcast of mindset, focus, daily actions, you name it. But that's something that I am, being on the other side of the tunnel, I am very, very grateful for.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Getting my dad had colon cancer. That's eventually what got him. And it was, obviously a hard thing to watch, but fantastic news to for you and your family. That's wonderful to hear that you kind of came through. So awesome. I'm sure it's probably as big of a thrill to you as it is maybe more so to your family and keeping you there. And that's great. That's really great news.
Well, thank you. My condolences for you and your father too.
Thank you. Yeah. He, Yeah, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. It's been a few years, but it wasn't fun to go through. So I feel for your family, and I am happy to have you here today. When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way? How would you like people to get in touch?
Please connect with me on LinkedIn, Travis Hill, also on Instagram, Travis Hill 1310. And also check with me at travis@valkyrieinvestmentgroup.com.
Awesome. And we'll put all that in the show notes too, so people can find you. Final question for you, Travis. What is a piece of advice you would give to someone who is, starting out in real estate, trying to make their way, and just what would you tell them to kind of encourage them and keep them going?
I would tell somebody that is new to real estate to keep them going is to don't feed the bad dog. We wake up every day with the opportunity to feed two dogs, a good dog and a bad dog. And if you want to be successful in this life, whether it's real estate, whether it's a business, whether it's whatever it is, whatever you figure out what your why is going to be, feed the good dog.
I love that. I've never heard that before. That's a very, very cool way of putting it. I think, and it makes total sense. I love it. So thank you, Travis. Appreciate you being on. I appreciate everything you shared with us. I have a feeling that you'll probably be getting a lot of people reaching out to you just to touch base and find out all more about you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I do want to tell you, hey, congratulations on being W-2 free. That's pretty awesome, man.
It is exciting. It's going to take a minute to set in, and it's by the time this episode airs, for sure it will be official. I technically still have till the end of this week, but yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm excited. Excited, nervous, all the things you can feel about it. But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, awesome. We'll go ahead and sign out. Have a good day, everyone. I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Ballara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.